people! This week I have a rather large book haul for you, so I'm not going to do any preamble and I'm just going to dive into it because it has been an unexpectedly productive book buying month.
Sophie Vlogs.
I'm going to kick things off with something which is actually a creation of one of my friends. This is Maid by Mark Dickson and Rebecca Burgess. This is my friend's comic, which he got funded on Kickstarter, and it came through the post today, and I'm really overexcited about it. Maid is like a really adorable... Every time I have to describe Maid, I'm like, they look like a cat, but they're not really a cat, because there are also cats that exist in this, and Maid does not look like them. They're sort of, in my head, they're like a gender-neutral chaos deity who has, like, come down to Earth to, like, experience what life would be like, and then just keeps getting in all these shenanigans. The actual description is it's like a fun, all-ages comic about finding where you fit and finding family and all this sort of stuff with this, like, little chaotic Maid creature. But it's really great, and I just wanted to mention it because I'm really proud of Mark. Well done. Into other books. I've got so many, I'm just going to dive into this. I'm going to start with books that I bought at the Book Barn's Kilo sale, and I'm mentioning it in case you are someone who lives in the Bristol or Bath greater area / can drive to Hallertrow, because the Book Barn do these Kilo sales where they get out loads of stuff that is in their warehouses, they put them all in boxes, and you pay by the kilogram, £2 per kilogram, they give you a big box you get to hunt through, and I found some real gems, and I'm mentioning it because they're going to be doing another one on the August bank holiday weekend, so if you are someone who lives in the greater West Country area, I would really recommend going along, because, if nothing else, my two faves that I found is I got 2 Furlough Society editions of things, and I'm thrilled about it. So first up, the first one is the Exeter Riddle book, which has this gorgeous cover on it. Hello, beautiful. The Exeter Riddle book is a book of Old English riddles. This translation is by Kevin Crossley-Holland. I did an Old English module when I was at university. We didn't really learn the language, but we did look at it a bit, but we did most things in translation. So I have looked at some of these riddles, but this has always been on my radar as something that I want to actually explore further, so I'm really excited, and it's a beautiful edition. Okay, put it back in its little cover. The other Furlough Society book I got is actually a collection of 3 books. This is British Myths and Legends. It's split into 3, so it's History and Romance, Heroes and Saints, Marvels and Magic, and then if I take one of them out, you can see this gorgeous cover, which is obviously a Arthurian call-out here with the Lady in the Lake and the sword. Who is the translator? I keep forgetting who is the translator. Oh, edited and introduced by Richard Barber with illustrations by John Vernon Lord, which, hello gorgeous illustrations. I'm so thrilled about this. I love myths and legends anyway. I have a number of different folktale collections that I collect and read through and that sort of thing. I would say that probably the main bulk of my knowledge is like Celtic Isles based, so I'm probably going to know some of the stuff in here, but I'm really excited to know more. Just beautiful. Okay, right. Other things that I got there include Black Maria by Diana Wynne Jones. You're going to notice that there is a theme of mythology running throughout this whole haul. Specifically, there's quite a lot of, like, Welsh or Celtic mythology going on. I'm really into Welsh mythology. My boyfriend's family is Welsh, so because since I met him, he's introduced me to stuff like the Mabinogian, stuff like this, these, like, original texts. And so I really enjoy a little retelling / exploration. And I know Diana Wynne Jones is really good for, like, if you want Welsh mythology-inspired stuff. I haven't read any of her things like Howl's Moving Castle, but I saw this one there, and I thought, hey, maybe I could dip my toe into Diana Wynne Jones. So this is Mig loves happy endings, but can there be one in Cranbury-on-Sea? Her Aunt Maria, who seems so gentle and civilised with her sweet little chats and daily tea parties, rules with a rod that is tougher than iron and deadlier than poison. So essentially, things start going wrong, and then Mig has to, she's essentially catapulted into this big struggle. So I think this is going to be quite a fun children's fantasy book, and hopefully it will be the start of me really enjoying Diana Wynne Jones's work. We shall see. After that is, this is just a really small, this is The Flower Seeker by Forster Robson. This is just an impulse buy, if I'm honest, because it's just different flowers and what they look like and what their properties are, what you can use them for. I'm really interested in flowers. I'm not the most outdoorsy person. I love a good countryside walk. I grew up vaguely countryside-y. I just would like to know more about like flowers and plants and stuff like that, so I thought this would be quite sweet. Then I picked up Ladies of the Bedchamber, The Role of the Royal Mistress by Dennis Friedman. I just thought this sounded quite interesting. It's looking at the role that like royal mistresses have had throughout history. So like some examples of ones that I can think about is stuff like Charles II's royal mistresses, quite influential. Henry VIII's royal mistresses, who some of them became queens. I just think there's a really interesting history to be looked at there. So this is hopefully going to be quite an interesting like broad scope of history, looking at different courts and different times and stuff. So I thought that sounded quite intriguing. Next up are 2 Juliet Marillier books. Juliet Marillier came onto my radar because of Jean from Jean's Bookish Thoughts. I know that she's a really big fan of her work. And then more recently for May, Ashley at A Frolic Through Fiction and Charlotte at, I cannot remember what her channel is called or anything, so I will just link to both below. They started this not readathon, but like, I don't know if it's a book group. Started this thing called Mistake Reads, where each month you do a different mythology-inspired fantasy book, and each month is going to focus on a different geographical location. So in this one, it was like I think it was European fantasy. So we read Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillier, which is Irish mythology inspired. And it was actually quite hard to get my hands on a copy. I don't know if they're like not in print anymore or anything, but I happened to see, so I thought, hey, let's save myself some fast and pick them up now. Son of the Shadows, which is the sequel to Daughter of the Forest, which I believe the whole Seven Waters series focuses on different generations of this one family that live in Seven Waters, and I think it's all different types of Irish mythology inspired. So I haven't actually really read the blurb of this one because I was like, I know this is the second book, I hadn't yet read the first book, so I was like, I'm going to get it because it was really hard to find the first book. Luckily, I enjoyed the first book, so I do want to read the sequel. So this will be that. And then a different series, I also picked up Wildwood Dancing, which is the first, I think this is just a duology, I could be wrong. This is having read Daughter of the Forest, there is this whole like forest as haven, forest as source of mythology, blah blah blah. This seems to have sort of a similar thing. 5 adventurous sisters, 4 dark creatures, 3 magical gifts, 2 forbidden lovers, 1 enchanted frog. So it's similar sort of idea where it's like you have this family and then figures come in that cause strife that breaks apart the family, and then this one person has to sort of go onto this like quest, if you will, to sort of fulfill things to bring the family back together. That's the gist I have gotten. But I did enjoy Daughter of the Forest, so I will hopefully also enjoy this one. At this point, we've left the book barn behind us. This is just books that I've just happened to have picked up at various points. So next up is The Birth of Venus by Sarah Dunant, which is on my radar because of Miriam at Between Lines and Life. I believe that Matt at MCS Books maybe bought her this. We've had a conversation about it. I've forgotten because I have a brain of a sieve. Essentially, I was interested in this because, like, art history, yay, yay, yay. This follows Alessandra Cecchi, who her father brings a young painter back from Northern Europe to decorate the walls of the family chapel in the Florentine Palazzo. So essentially this is Medici Florence. There's art, there's a whole religious strife going on, there's just Medici Florence in general, which sounds fabulous to explore because the Medicis are really interesting. So I've been wanting to read a bit more historical fiction. I really want to read more arty-based books because ever since I did the Art Movements book tag, I've been like, oh yeah, you really like art stuff, Sophie. Hopefully this is going to satisfy both of those cravings for me, and I'm excited to dip into this one quite a lot. After that is The Gender Games by Juno Dawson, which the back describes it as a frank, witty and powerful manifesto for a world in which everyone can truly be themselves. So we're essentially examining gender, we're examining societal ideas of gender, stuff like this. It seems like I thought that this was just Juno Dawson writing it herself. From the back it seems like there's actually a number of different contributors. I don't know how much they contribute. I don't know whether it's just like it's largely Juno Dawson writing but then there are like extracts from other people, or if it's like different chapters. I didn't really explore it very much. It's just, it has been on my radar for a while and I thought, hey, this seems like some fun non-fiction. I'll pick it up and read it. This is my entire book logic, let's be honest. After that is another one of the mythology books. This is Tirzah and the Prince of Crows by Deborah K. Davies. This is a Welsh mythology-inspired book. It's set during, set in the Welsh Valleys in 1974. Tirzah is 16, pretty, witty, and wise. She's brought up very religious, but then she meets a boy, and essentially, there it's going to be, my understanding is that it's sort of a tale of this sort of like first love, finding yourself type narrative, but then it's also got like all of these Welsh fables and mythology like weaved throughout it. So I'm excited to see how those two things are sort of brought together. BookTube is the reason why this was on my radar in the first place. I can't remember specifically who it was that is the person who made me be like, I really want to buy that book, but someone did, so thank you to whoever that was. After that, we have a book that I got through the Queer Book Box. I've only just started doing the Queer Book Box. This is my second book that I've got through it, and it is When We Speak of Nothing by Olumide Popoola, and the back essentially describes this as, the book starts and it's set in 2011 in London, and it's sort of exploring racial tensions in London, but then our main character discovers that his father lives in Nigeria, and he goes across to Nigeria, and he becomes involved with some activists and stuff like that. So this is something that is not necessarily a genre that I hugely read a lot of, but I'm excited to try it and see what it's like. I'm excited about the Queer Book Box for this very reason, that already both books it sent me are books which they're not genres that I read a huge amount of, but I enjoyed the first book, Pages for You by Sylvia Brownrigg something. Maybe that's her full name, I can't remember. So I'm equally as excited to dip into this one and just see what it's like and go with it. Next up, we've got The Princess Diarist by Carrie Fisher. I read one of Carrie Fisher's books previously, and that was Wishful Drinking, and I enjoyed it. This is one that is slightly more focused on her experiences filming Star Wars, and I really like Star Wars. One of my first times going to the cinema was to see Star Wars, like a rerun of it, and I stood up on my chair and I yelled during the fight between Luke and Darth Vader. My dad tells me that I yelled, "Kill him, Luke, kill him." Only my dad is the one who tells me this, so it could be a lie, but it probably is true, because I used to get very into films when I was a child. But suffice to say, I love me some Star Wars. I loved Carrie Fisher so much, and this has been something that I've been wanting to read for ages, and I saw it in a charity shop, and it was £1.50, and I was like, hey, this time is now. So I'm really excited for this one. After that is another book that I've been wanting to buy for a while, and that is Clariel by Garth Nix. Abelson series by Garth Nix. It was one of my favourite series growing up as a kid. Sabriel, Lyriel, and Abelson is the three books that make it up. It's sort of about this necromancer. The Abelson is like a necromancer. They like, when the dead walk, the Abelson has to like put them back to sleep and like sort that shit out. Loved them as a kid, and then more recently Garth Nix started writing them again. I bought Golden Hand because I thought Golden Hand came before Clariel, and then I realised that Clariel comes before Golden Hand, so I haven't read that one yet. And my plan is to do a reread of the whole series, and I saw this again in a charity shop, and I was like, you know what, I keep forgetting to buy this bloody book, and which means I never do the series reread, because I keep waiting for this one, and I was like, this is my time. So I have no idea how this ties in, because I've been desperately avoiding spoilers ever since it was published, but I'm excited to finally be able to continue the series and see where it's going, because it was one of my faves, and I want to see if I still like it as much. I hope that I do. I think that I will, but we're going to have to see. Next is a book which it might be silly that I've bought this. I bought Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. The reason why it might be silly is because I have Shadow and Bone to read and I haven't read it yet. So it might be silly for me to have bought this when I haven't read the other one and I don't know if I like the author, but I know that loads of people who didn't really like Shadow and Bone really liked Six of Crows. So again, all I really know, part of the Grishaverse, Shadow and Bone is one series, Six of Crows is a different series. They are somehow tied together. Again, I've been really avoiding spoilers, so I don't know how they tie together, but I know loads of people really, really enjoyed this one. So I'm going to, like, try Shadow and Bone, try this one, see which one I like best, and go forward with that series. I don't know how they tie together. I don't know if you can do that or not. We'll just have to see. Penultimate book. We are nearing an end, which is good because my voice is starting to hurt. Diving Bells by Lucy Wood. This is a short story collection. I don't normally read that many short story collections because I get, sometimes I get really into it. Sometimes they really work for me, sometimes they don't, and I think that's just the case with all books, but I find it really highlighted with short story collections. But this is inspired by Cornish mythology, and I very rarely find books that are inspired by Cornish mythology. I know that they exist and they're out there, it's just I haven't got my hands on a lot of them yet, so I was really excited by this, and so I I got overexcited and I bought it because yay Cornish mythology. I tried to learn Cornish for a bit. It worked a lot better than when I tried to learn Welsh because the words suit my accent a bit more, but I still didn't do very well at it. I do mean to pick it up again sometime, but I haven't. Finally, the final book. This is another book that is on my radar because of Jean at Jean's Bookish Thoughts, and that's Hild by Nicola Griffith. This is historical fiction. I'm really overexcited about it because it is set in Britain in the 7th century. Edwin, King of Northumbria, plots his rise to over-king of all angles. Blah, 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 blah. Hild has a unique way of reading the world. By studying nature, observing human behaviour, and matching cause with effect, she's developed the ability to make startlingly accurate predictions. Stuff like this. Essentially, because of these, she becomes really useful to Edwin, and then it's like, is she going to be exploited? Is she going to be safe? The dangers that come with all these things. People thinking that she's like a sorceress and stuff. I don't know. It just, again, wanting to read more historical fiction, this is a time period which I find really interesting, and again, I haven't read a huge amount of historical fiction based in this time period, so I'm really excited for this one. I'm hoping it's going to be absolutely everything that I'm, like, wanting in my little tiny soul, but we'll see. Okay, ever so quickly, just before I call this to an end, I just want to do a quick thing which is bookish related but not books, and that is my order from Holly Dunn Design arrived, and I'm really overexcited about it, so I just wanted to show it on here. I got some notebooks from her Greek Goddess series, so I got myself an Artemis notebook, which is the Huntress, and I bought my friend a Persephone notebook because she's a really big fan of Persephone, and I also got 2 bookmarks, so I got this little lovely Snow White bookmark, and also I'm currently using it as a bookmark. I also got this gorgeous little mermaid bookmark. So I just wanted to show them because if you're anything like me, who you like books, you like bookish related things, and I just think they're really beautiful, and Holly Dunn Design is one of my favourite YouTubers and one of my favourite artists, and I just think her work is gorgeous. So I wanted to pin that on the end. Right, that is the end of this Mammoth haul. I did not intend to buy this many books this month, but at the same time, I like having lots of books to read because I get through books quite quickly, and it makes me really happy that I always have an exciting little pile. Have you read any of these? Are there any of these I should prioritise? Are there any that you're particularly excited about that you want to check out? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to talk to you about books. Otherwise, I hope you're having a really lovely day, a fantastic week, and I will see you next time for something different.